Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ratsepile Ramoko. I am Design and Media Assistant at Rise, and I am your co-host for this webinar. Yes, thank you very much, Teddy.
Thank you. And I'd also like to introduce our guest will also be joining us on today's webinar for today's discussion. That's Itumesin Tako, our Enterprise and Development Manager.
Hi everyone, my name is Mutating, and like Teddy said, I work at Rise as the Enterprise Development Manager. I'll be co-hosting with the two gentlemen and hosting that webinar today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, Rise is a non-profit social enterprise that operates in Lesotho. This is a landlocked country in South Africa. We focus on economic development through job creation, skills development, and entrepreneurship, specifically in the built environment through a fellowship program called In Loco. Now, the fellowship is a design, build, and entrepreneurship program for graduates who have studied architecture, construction management, civil and electrical engineering, plumbing and carpentry, among other disciplines. The fellows get a hands-on learning experience while at the same time solving problems in infrastructure. We turn job seekers into job creators by helping them start their own businesses and taking them through a 3-year incubation program where we connect the fellows with mentors, co-working space, tools, and clients, among other resources. Please feel free to post your comments or questions on Facebook if you're watching us live from there, or you can post them right here on Zoom in the comment box. Now, on today's topic on unemployment for the modern day graduate, mutating into entrepreneurship, we are having a conversation with Adaptability. So please feel free to post those questions or your comments in the through the duration of the webinar. Now, Adaptability is a chartered accountant and a former president of the Institute of Accountants. He is currently the managing partner at Begani Chartered Accountants, and he has also been a partner at New Dawn Chartered Accountants. He has a vast experience in financial, taxation, auditing, business, and governance issues, having worked in the industry for over 18 years. He was the principal secretary of the Ministry of Small Business Development, Cooperatives, and Marketing from 2017 to 2020. And he is a member of several boards of directors and chairs some of them. He remains a serial entrepreneur still and is the voluntary ambassador of Lesotho Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And he's also the founder and patron of I Am a Change Agent Social Enterprise. Ndadela, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm really honored. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And let me take this opportunity to thank Rise for affording me this time to share with them what I'll be sharing with them. And the topic is unemployment for the modern day graduate, mutating into entrepreneurship. It is important that to even make a setting, have an appreciation of what the modern day workplace is like, and just a few pointers that a modern day workplace is not a single physical place. In most organizations, it is a realm. It's like a culture comprising of people working from multiple locations in different cities, states, different time zones, and even countries. And some people work full-time, others work as contractors. And COVID-19 surely made sure that the working space is in fact turned into our homes. And the most common media that we use to work these days is communicating electronically. That is more or less the background of the modern day workplace. And to start off the presentation, I will first go to the outline will be something like this. We will be looking into the statistical context in terms of our population, which population is economically active, which one is inactive, and how the two complement each other. Then we'll be looking at the employment numbers, those that are employed and those that are unemployed, the type, the concentration, and the size of specialized or graduate skills, which is today's topic. We'll be focusing mostly on the people that have graduated. And then we'll be looking into the transition from employment to entrepreneurship. I guess that's what the term mutation referred to. And under entrepreneurship, we'll be looking at what capabilities are needed in business or in entrepreneurship. And then, of course, talk to the constraints of starting a business or being in business, especially in Lesotho. Then to finish with, we'll be looking at what key skills are needed in a modern day graduate. And then we'll have some questions and answer sessions. Now, if for most people that would have seen the website for Bureau of Statistics, here is a graphical representation that we look at the population of people that are 10 years and older, the whole population, and of those, they are split into those that are called economically active and those that are economically inactive. And those that are economically inactive are usually the students, the retired people, and what they call as housewives. And those that are active economically are those that are actually employed, plus those that are unemployed. And those that are unemployed are those that are actually seeking to be employed. And then in that, we'll be looking into the composition, the size, the numbers of the employed population and those that are unemployed. And much of the statistical representation is along the side, the side of male, female. So in terms of gender sensitivity, it is also important to appreciate the spread between the two. Population 2 million, with females just over the males, 982 males, 1 million females. And of those 2 million population, it is important to know that 1,300,000 is actually headed by male, and the other 700,000 is headed by females. Sorry, I got the split on the other side. Now, the key thing is those ones that you're saying are economically active, which is the 1.5 million, 1.585 million. And then the economically inactive, which is 928. And then the labor force is around 656,000. Of those, only 569 are employed and the other 89 unemployed. This is according to the Bureau of Statistics. But when you look at your labor statistics, they actually say the employed ones are still around 565,000. The unemployed is around 151,000. So there is also differences in these statistics, and it's important to have the appreciation. Now, when you look at the whole population that is economically active, which is people 10 years and above, that we have spoken about, you'd have seen that those that are, the list of them, those that are actually employers are only 0.43%, and a good chunk of them are actually the students, the housewife, and these are the ones that you have said they are not economically active. And then there's an interesting look, we say job seeking, the unemployed ones or the employment ones. Unemployed ones are those that are set job seeking. There is those that are seeking job for the first time and those that have been employed in the past but are no longer working. And when you look at those numbers, the graduates will be falling in the category of those that are seeking job for the first time. They're around 40,000 or just under 40,000. And of those that are employed, a good number of them are actually employed in South Africa, about 150,000, followed by those that are actually called self-employed, which is 129,000. It is important because most people, when they're thinking of employment, these numbers are sort of telling us where we might likely end up. There are other players like parastatals, government, manufacturing, and the numbers are there. And then we look at the concentration of age. Most of the people that are actually employed do fall within the grouping of youth, which is around 20 years to 44 years. 68% are actually from that age group, 20 years to 44 years, which means when you also look at your age, if you are unemployed and you're seeking job for the first time, it is also important to note how old you are, because it seems like if you are beyond 44, the numbers are not favorable, or they are not bad either. And then of this, there is also, let me just do this so that in terms of employment, 40% are elementary occupations. These are basic jobs that do not need any kind of skill. So most people that are employed are actually in that sector. And then there are those that are in agriculture, in service and sales. Professionals is only about 8.4%. I'm just highlighting the key ones: crafts and related trades workers, 9.3%. So this is more or less the distribution of those that are actually employed between male and female. And as you can see, most males are actually the ones working as opposed to the females. And even when you look in those basic and skilled stuff, you'll realize that a lot of them, female and female, more or less the same. Whereas when it comes to sales and sales workers, mostly females are the ones that seem to be working in that space, and the professionals as well. The females are dominating the numbers in that space. So when we talk of an empowerment, which is another subject that we shall talk about, it sort of suggests that it seems that females are actually more empowered than the males. But I know there's another debate in terms of when it comes to the positions that we're talking about, how significant is this? Now, overall, if you look at 84%, 62% of people are actually employed by the private sector, and 22% is a private household. So between the two, 84% of people are already working there. Government only forms 14%, and I know there has been debates that government is the #1 employer. This is not what we are seeing according to this statistics. It seems the private sector is actually the #1 employer, though a lot of those jobs that are in the private sector are not those ones that you can consider to be, best to allow people to live from them. Because in there, we're talking the same farmers, we're talking the self-employed, and a whole lot of others. Here, I've already spoken about the employment that is mostly in South Africa. South Africa still remains the #1 employer, followed by those that are self-employed. And that sort of shows where the inclination of our numbers is, and the reality out there. In as much as we may want to assume that the labor market can absorb all of us, it seems that South Africa is ready, and self-employment is the second best alternative. These ones, I won't even go much into it. It's just the same numbers now spread into the industries, agriculture, mining. Agriculture and forestry takes up a big chunk, 118,000 Ks. Mining, manufacturing, construction are the significant players. The other significant player is other services, which is the households, also 118,000. And then you see others, education is also there in those numbers. Now, going now into the population of the educated, what we thought or potentially could mean the employed people, you would see that of the unemployed population, 9% of them is actually people that have graduated. And that 9% equates to something like 8,000 or 8,165 out of a population of 102 educated people. So it seems that most people that actually have gone through school and higher institutions do have do have and stand better chances of being employed. But even so, some of them still do not get to be employed. Now, this is the inactive population. It is very important because we'll later see when we're talking about the skills to survive in the modern day workplace, that there are other things that you cannot learn from inside the classroom that are equally important, which you can only get through your upbringing and other social institutions or social structures of development. Here, it's the concentration of the skilled. You would see that a lot of graduates are around business and administration professionals, 29,000 or 29K, followed by information and communications technology professionals, 27,000. And then there's a huge drop after that. The next best is architects or engineers or surveyors and designers, 11,000. And the numbers are there. So you can already see that most of the professionals that we have, it's in business, administration, and IT. These numbers talk to competition. If there is more of us in that space, it means there will be the chances of getting a job there are even more challenging or more exciting or more difficult to be precise. So when you look at the other numbers, when there's few professionals, that could be another thing that people consider in terms of increasing their chances of employment. These are just the statistics of the higher institutions that we have here in Lesotho, the Bush University, the list of colleges and universities that we have, and the students that we have in those schools for the past 4 years, or from 2014 to 2018. And as you can see, much of the graduates that actually come out are the females. Females are more than the men. Out of an intake of 22,000, almost 14,000 are females and 9,000 are males. Now, we have now the background and the statistics. Why should we change from employment to entrepreneurship, which is mutation? There is a number of reasons why this is important. Some are imposed by the environmental lifestyles or the exposures that we exposed to, including if people can't find jobs, they end up finding themselves in the business space, not because they wanted to, because they had no choice. So the factors that are around us dictate what things are feasible or practical and what things are not. For some of us, we were brought up in families that were already involved in business. So when you're talking inherited genetics, is the influence of your upbringing. And it's so important to say which environment were you brought up against. Were you already exposed to this language of entrepreneurship or exposed to the language of being employed? Those things have an influence on you. For others, it's just pure chance, coincidence and fate, perhaps even destiny, that finds you in entrepreneurship. And this change can be good and can also be bad, depending on a number of factors that I've already spoken into. And so what is entrepreneurship? Is when you act upon opportunities and ideas and transform them into value for others. And this value can be created and can be classified as through financial, cultural, and social. So essentially, entrepreneurship is acting on ideas that attempt to find solutions, financial solutions, cultural solutions, and social solutions for others. And it is important that there are certain capabilities when you are an entrepreneur that comes with entrepreneurship. And one that is very important is the capability to act and commit. It's not a show business when you're in business. It's not just talk. You must be willing to commit and take action. It's very paramount. The other capability that is equally important is the capability to deliver on your entrepreneurial objective. If it's your financial objective or your social objective or the cultural objective, is you must be sure that you will attain that you have set out yourself to attain. And it is another capability that is very paramount. The third one, which is very, very popular that I like, is the capability to adapt and self-renew. I've seen and heard people that wish that the environment can change to suit them, whereas it's got to be the other way around. You got to adapt to the environment that is surrounding you, the high unemployment rate, the lack of opportunities, the challenges that your people are facing. You need to adapt and find your self-relevance in the midst of all that. That is another key capability for entrepreneurs. The fourth one is the capability to relate to the external environment. We do not live as islands or in isolation. Our people's challenges are actually our challenges. The politics that are around us are part of us. I've had people thinking, no, politics are not for me and other things. When you say something like that, it sort of confirms that you are detached from the environment that you're surviving or living within. And that may not work for you. So it is important as an entrepreneur that you can relate to the environment around you. It be the society, the politics, the economy, everything. And then lastly, the capability to achieve the coherence internally, whether it's within yourself. You need to find a way of finding peace with yourself, finding peace within your family, finding peace within your organization, within your business, and make sure that people can, get along and things can work coherently together. That is very paramount. Now, business has got a lot of challenges. These were the constraints that were identified in my past in the office of the Ministry of Small Business. And we engaged into an exercise or a study with the UNDP. And what they found were this, and they have ranked them in terms of how prevalent they were. Number one was sourcing money, how to access to finance, how do you get the money? 35% of the responses. Second, and related to it, is the issue of cash flow. Cash flow is the bloodline of any life. You do not have any blood, you cannot exist. So it is very important that you make sure that your business does have the money to meet your rent, to pay your salaries at the end of the month, to meet your commitments with your suppliers on a regular basis. The top three are talking to each other, because the third one talks about being owed money by debtors, which will talk to your cash flow, will also talk to your money. So if you can't, and I know it's very common that we sell on credit to a lot of people, you must know that when you sell on credit to people that are not credit worthy, they will not be able to pay you on time. The other ones that are following those is not enough customers or too many competitors. The two are also related. If the competition is high, it would mean there's fewer customers. And then the others is those who do not know who to sell to. On and on and on, transport problems. And then the other one that was quite fascinating for me is the 9 at the bottom, that some people had no reasons why they are constrained from doing business. So I don't know what your case will be. And now, to end the presentations, I'll talk to the very key skills that are needed for the modern graduate. And you'll see as I go through these skills, a lot of them are not the things that you find in the classroom. And this is where now the talk comes of being book smart versus being street smart. And what our recommendation is be both. Be book smart and at the same time be street smart. The skills that have helped people get employed or stay in employment, on the top of the list is that of adaptability. We have already touched on it earlier. Ability to adapt. The environment will not change. Businesses fall every day, every now and then. COVID comes, COVID goes. People are laid off. and then they need to reform, reframe, restart themselves. So you need to be willing to adapt, that when things change, you change with them. It's very paramount. The other thing is empathy. Empathy, they talk of emotional intelligence. As an employer, you need to be able to identify with your employers, with your employees, with the people that work with you, with the society around you. You are not detached from the people that you're working with. These people have different needs. They come from different beliefs, different backgrounds, different areas, different cultures. So you got to be able to be flexible to mingle with this diversity and of this population. The other one, which is very important, is communication. You must stay informed. I've seen people that do not know what is trending now, and that is a problem. You must know what is trending now. You must know what is happening in the US. You must know what is happening in Asia. You must know what is happening in South America, in Europe. You try as much as possible to be informed about what is happening in and around you and globally. The other very key thing is the curiosity. You must always be looking for things to learn, to find new solutions, to find why are these things happening, you know? And that curiosity has helped people to stay relevant and stay in their jobs, because in the absence of them, other people have also lost jobs. The other thing which is very key is data interpretation. I've just gone through the statistics, and for most people, the question is, do you know what these numbers are talking about? You must be able to say that when people talk of, as a population, we are lazy. It is out of a population of 2 million, we cannot be having only 569,000 people working and then say we are not very lazy. It means a whole lot of us are actually out there, perhaps not doing things that are productive, or if they are doing things that are productive, they are not recorded as such. The other thing is intuition or confident wisdom. With so much fake news and a whole lot of things, you must have the ability to see through the balance sheet. In the street language, it's the bull stuff, you know, the bullshit, to be precise. When things are said, you must be in the position to know which is real and which is not real, which is sensible, which is reasonable, and which is not reasonable. And that is an intuition. It's not something that you can be taught in a class. It's something that you grow with it or you develop over time. The upbringing is important. Project management is very key to know the timelines. If you want to go start a project, know when it's going to start, when it's going to finish, what resources are needed, in what sizes, and you have those things. And then another one is ability to keep and remain focused. There's so much that is happening around us, and most people lose track and they get disorientated, and then they lose focus and they end up not knowing where they are going or where they are coming from. It is important to maintain that focus. The other one, which is very key as well, is software comprehension. A lot of things that we're dealing now in this electronic age have to do with softwares that are updated all the time, that are changing all the time. The interfaces are also, so you must have at least a reasonable amount of comprehension and understanding of the software language. And then there is that intrinsic motivation. There is a lot of things that are going to happen and people are going to be discouraged. But if you do not have the inner energy within you to motivate yourself, when things go bad, you're already hopeless. People are strained, they are stressed. Everybody is looking for peace of mind. So, but if you cannot motivate yourself, you sort of become a burden to others, and others will tend to walk away from you because nobody wants to deal with a stressful situation or to have the negative energy be wrapped off or against them. The other two last and very important skill is the ability to solve problems. I don't care what kind of problems, it doesn't matter. As long as you have the ability to solve problems, you will stay long and you will be employed. And then must have a financial plan. With jobs that are expiring every now and then, it is a must that you should anticipate that my job might end tomorrow. What happens when the job ends tomorrow? I might not be employed for the next 2 years or for the next year. What will I be doing then? These are the skills. And like I said, when you look at them, when we started off, we talked of the inactive population, the housewives. Their roles are very key in some of the skills because this is where the grounding is. And with this, that is Tole and the audience, let me thank you for your paying attention, and I will welcome any questions. I had thought it would take about 20 minutes, and I see I've taken it slightly more, but nevertheless, no harm was meant. And I will leave it over to you and hear the questions from the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pekane. That was a very insightful presentation. Wow. Insightful. Thank you so much. Now we do have a question from Dr. Bokang. He would like to find out why your statistics start from 10-year-olds instead of 15-year-olds or around 18 years in the working sector.
Yes, most countries start from 15, and in Lesotho, I see we've used 10. And if you think of it, there are head boys that are looking after the sheep and goats who are about 10 years. So I wouldn't know exactly why the preference or people chose to go for 10 years and not 15 years. But like I said, these are just for statistical reference purposes. I don't think there is any rule that is written on the rock.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Thank you for that. And Dr. Boka, I hope your question was answered. Please feel free to post any more questions or comments or suggestions or your observations in the comment box if you're joining us on Zoom. And if you're joining us or watching us live on Facebook, feel free to post your comments or your observations or questions in the comments on our Facebook page. That's RISE International, RISE, RISE International, Relationships Inspired Social Enterprise. Now, I'd like to hand over to my co-host, as well as our guest, who's joining us today, Ritsepile and Ray.
Thank you very much, Teddy. Yeah, I'll go ahead and ask the first question, but feel free to interject whenever. And yeah, we'll be monitoring the questions that will be coming through the comment section. And yeah, my first question is when you talked about the 5 C's, and then later on, you mentioned that intuition. So, from the mindset of a person that went to school as a graduate, you are kind of channeled towards being an employee. So how do you acquire some of those non-transferable skills, soft skills that you talked about as you mutate into entrepreneurship? Because the current climate of our country requires most graduates to venture into entrepreneurship.
These skills can be learned, can be taught. That's why I said the role of parenting is very important into some of these things. Of course, I'm not an expert into behavioral studies, but I will definitely say if you hang around often with the people that have been around in these spaces, you over time, I, for instance, have been criticized that as a professional, I found myself in a political territory. Wasn't that a political suicide? But when you look at it at the end of the day, is when you interact with politicians, there is a lot of trickery that is involved. You sort of learn to know what has substance and what doesn't have substance. And you learn to listen to your gut feeling. Gut feeling, it's in everything. It's not just in politics. But I wouldn't really say I'm in a position to know what, but I know a lot of people, hey, something says no, or something says I should go. That something is the intuition that we're talking about. And if you hone it or sharpen it from time to time, it will end up being better.
Okay, okay. And speaking of politics, yeah, politics, the government, you were a principal secretary of the Ministry of Small Businesses, right? So I was wondering if there were any strategies ensuring that the economy of the country remains as opposed to it being in the hands of, foreign investors.
Or most definitely, and specifically to if most people will recall, there was the issue of wool and mohair, and it was a
Yes.
domestication legislation. And all it was speaking to was, let's not export our resources raw. Let's add value onto them. And that domestication was targeted at improving the opportunities in Lesotho. And luckily for it, they sort of wrapped off into the space of diamonds. Subsequent to that, you had people that are small-scale diamond miners also in that space. You have had issues around water, bottling as well, and there were issues around meat, especially for the cows or for the animals that can be bred in Lesotho, that was protected by way of restricting outside imports. And but there were debates around these issues. But if you look at it, and then there is the campaign that we promoted a lot, that we need to buy local or buy Lesotho or and that is precisely what we were trying to do. And if you have seen as well, there were also criticism around AGOA opportunities that now that AGOA has come to an end, or it's coming to an end, we still do not have local people that are ready to take over those factories. That is also another lesson learned of the things that we should be doing or could be doing to make sure that we retain as many opportunities or create opportunities for our local people. Certainly when these debates are done, our understanding is at different paths. When you look at it from a particular political point of view, it was very exciting. But when you look at it from an economic reality, in terms of what we lost because of frustrating that process, it is indeed a sad story that hopefully all of us would have learned. I hope I've attempted to your questions on what we did then as part of the ministry to make sure. Also, it was the issue around access to finance. What we identified that we needed more institutions, not just partial credit guarantee. There is a need for development finance institutions. And since now I've heard people talking of venture capitalists as other channels that people can get funding from. There was also the issue of cooperatives, which collectively or amongst the cooperatives, there's over 100 million in cash or in funds that is sitting there that people do have. So there is quite a fair amount, but there's a lot of improvement and room for improvement.
Okay,
All
okay.
right,
And
Tatilagata, I think you did attempt to answer our questions. So I picked up when you were answering the previous question, you said that at some point you guys didn't feel the local people were ready, and then you described a few channels for funding, which brings me to the question, why is it such a long process for the youth who have all these innovative and great ideas to finally get funding?
Okay, it's a beautiful question that you've asked. And just about last month, we had an expo at Marcelo Mall, and we had panelists coming from the players in that space. And one of the things that we learned was when you look at our structure currently, most of the players in that space are commercial banks. And commercial banks are using public's money. So there's a need to make sure that they are wise in their investment. But they did say that the reason it takes long, it's because of the evaluation. And in their evaluation, they said they are looking for a character. Are you a person that pays their debts when you are given debts? And that's where credit bureau is very important. Individually, as a company, when you have a financial account or clothing account, do you pay it in time? Because those things at the end reflect on your profile. The other thing they talked about is your capacity in terms of soft skills and the physical capacity, your office. Do you have the understanding of the subject, the business that you're into? Do you have the right number of people working for you? Can you distribute? Those are things that are talking to the capacity. The third one is capital. Capital is important to show if you want someone to invest in your business, how committed yourself are you? So the more the money that the owner of the business invests in his or her business, it makes it easier for an outsider to also put their money into your business because they can see your commitment into it. The other thing they talked about is collateral. Collateral, it's the security. It's not even that important. They said once these other things are in place, it's just there, but it's not really as important. And the last one is the conditions that they do. So before they have to evaluate you on all these five, what they call 5 C's. That's the time that it takes, and it takes longer for you. Hence why it may seem like it takes forever for them to come back to you. But what they told us is they cannot do that without going through that evaluation process.
Okay, thank you very much for that very insightful explanation. I'm sure you've shed light for most of us. But you keep mentioning the 5 C's, which brings me to ask, are there regulatory frameworks in place for startups, young entrepreneurs to follow as a guideline or a criteria to meet in order to say you can get funding, or this is what you need to be meeting so that we have a conducive environment for entrepreneurship here in Lesotho?
I must admit there is a need for more of those. Like I said, I talked of development finance. The other thing that also came up is like you'll have your country, which is Lesotho, saying a priority industry for us is agriculture. But when you go to the banks, agriculture is the most scared industry for them to invest in. So there's already a conflict, you see, there's a national direction, and then there's a priority in terms of the players. So we keep saying things that we know that in reality are not practical. So when you have institutions like development finance institutions, they are the ones that have an understanding that we might help 10 businesses, of which 10 of those, 9 of those are probably going to fail, or 8 of them. But the 2 that will survive will give us a good fit into the, into the process. So we know when a development finance institutions that not every business that you're funded is going to succeed. But those that have succeeded are also a throughput. It's an output that you can also be proud of. And we need not to be discouraged by those things. Yes, there's a lot of regulations, and the regulations on the reforms have been stated. There is one recently that was passed that talks of people not taking people's credit cards or debit cards, that now you can use your wheelbarrow as a security, you can use your furniture as a security. All these regime changes or the proposed legislations or new legislations are so as to encourage more lending and make it easier for people to have access to the capital. And there's many others as well. Of course, we cannot all finish them in today's session, but there is a lot of room for improvement, and a lot of things have already been done in that space.
Okay, thank you so much. So from your experience with like the multiple years you've been in business and you were once PS, can you say there's a specific sector which you would say this is the sector which is most likely to produce the most successful businesses in Lesotho, or really it's just a matter of preference for the startups?
Within the context of what we have seen recently, we have seen that essential services, especially food, agriculture, pharmaceuticals, the basic health, the important things. If you go into that space, you're likely to succeed. I've already alluded to the fact that even when I'm talking agriculture, there's very few people that are willing to help you or invest in your business because of the risks that are involved. And just over yesterday, we saw a flooded farm of chickens. And those are the realities of that industry. It's not like the people are afraid to invest in it for no reason. There are indeed reasons to do so. So I would think, yeah, food, agriculture, tourism, that depends, but pretty much all the spaces, because these things come to strategy. If your packaging model has a secret in it, and you have seen a niche that you want to focus on, and you pay attention to make sure that you become profitable at it, pretty much all or any business can be profitable if the execution is up to scratch.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like our youth in Lesotho just go towards entrepreneurship because there's a lack of jobs, and it's just frustration of being home, not because they really want to succeed in it? If so, what do you think?
Yes, a lot of them is because, which is good. When we're talking mutation, the mutation that we're talking about is forced entrepreneurship, because there's nothing else that you'll be doing. But others do go for it for other reasons beyond just being forced to go into it. Others is the influence of their parents or the ecosystem within which they live. Others is pure chance, like I said before. So yes, it may seem like that, but not everybody follows that path. Another speaker that I like most, Ndadidi Kgang, once said, people go into business because they have hated something so bad, they don't want to experience it again. Others go into something because they love something so much that they want to make a difference with it. So even the motives can be hate, can be love. Our motives of ending up in business are different.
Yeah, that's true.
I would like to then, interject there with the kind of culture that young people have now, with embracing the gig economy. They like to, have several streams of incomes or several jobs, and um, how would you advise them to formalize that? Because they may not be as high paying as maybe a formal job, a formal business, but they like the flexibility and the agility, because it's the nature of young people nowadays.
It's not even just the nature. If you look at it, it's actually the evolution of where employment is going. Because long-term employment, people are afraid to pay packages at the end of it. And they prefer contracts or short terms, like you call them gig economy. And it's slowly forcing people to have a business mentality, that for employees to start thinking of themselves as business people selling services. And what it does is think of your employer as a customer. So if you are content that I only want to have one customer, the chances of survival are very slim. So it means the orientation now needs to change, and you have to have an understanding that I need as many customers as I can. So after a 3-month contract, there's another one waiting for me. And usually that space was for entrepreneurs. And the way you see the evolution of employment, you see more and more people getting contracts, 3-year contracts, some even 2 months or 3 months. So after that 3 months, you need to be thinking, what will I be doing after the first 3 months or after the first month? So the direction as we see things today is already heading towards where nobody will be employed for any periods that is long. It's going to be a lot of short gigs. And what people have done is you find one person having so many jobs. Even me, I'm in business, but I'm a board member somewhere. I'm selling on the side. I'm consulting for someone. Yeah, I cannot afford to be in one place and have one client or one employer and be content with it, because the economy that we're dealing with no longer allows. And if you look at even in the developed countries, it's not unusual for people to be working 3, 4, 5 jobs at the same time. So for those people that are better prepared, they might as well embrace that side to say, you know what, I would rather have 50 different jobs than have one job that I might lose and not be doing anything. So if the first one doesn't work out for me, the next one might give me something to live and go by. So yes, I really do think that whether we like it or not, the direction that the environment has already taken is pointing that more and more people will be working short jobs than secure long-term jobs.
Right. Thank you so much for that. And I liked how you mentioned opportunities like venture capitalism, angel investors, and equity shares. What are some of the forms of funding that SMMEs can get access to here in Lesotho? And are they reliable or it's just theoretically?
The usual sources of funding are usually, people call them the 3 Fs. It's your family, your friends, and fools. Your family, you know, your friends, you know. The interesting one is this category of fools. In the category of fools, you have banks, you have venture capitalists, you have development finance institutions. Why do we call them fools? It's somebody that is willing to risk their money on your dream for nothing, or sometimes without holding anything tangibly or tangible. So that's why they are fools. So those are the places that we know, and different people, you could be your other shareholders, what you call investors. And then there's other groupings like unions or cooperatives, people that do crowdfunding, come together and then have a pool of funds which they can borrow and lend amongst themselves, as in savings and credit cooperatives. So those are the models and places and institutions that are most likely to give you funds.
Okay. And what would you say the future of the unemployed youth looks like in 3 to 5 years from now, realistically?
It looks very exciting. I don't want to sound very depressing, but it's going to be very dynamic, very versatile. It is, and as it has always been, going to be the survival of the fittest. Those that are better prepared will be the ones that fare better than those that are not willing to work harder, to work faster, to work more efficiently, to work more effectively. So whether we like it or not, there is the element of competition. I would say a bit of luck, but hey, nothing ever happens by luck, because they say luck is when opportunity meets preparedness. So even when you are networked, that network, it took you time to build it. It was did not just fall from the air. It be your parents or your mother who has done the networking for you. It works for you. So it is a collective effort. So everybody that you know is important. And like I said, stay informed. The more informed you are, the better your decisions will be in terms of knowing where the opportunities exist at any given time.
Definitely. And do you feel like the reality we're going to be dealing with in the next 2 to 3 years is that the job market demand is really changing from what used to be a specialist to a jack of all trades and someone really who's just good with digital things? Do you think that's going to be the reality?
Has changed, like we said. There's a few classroom lessons that are important. A lot of them are actually soft. Like we have said, it's been street smart than being just book smart. So people that are in sports, people that are in acting, we have seen people that are called influencers. It's because of the attributes that and the values that they bring out, the ability to talk to people, the ability to influence others. So now your state of security when it comes to employment is no longer dependent on how qualified you are. People, and indeed the job market is looking for people that will provide solutions to the problems and people's problems. So it will depend on how well you can diagnose the problems of the people or the community that you live around. So I don't think there is any one size fits all. If you look at people that are into sports, it is one of those underrated things, but in other countries, it actually does make people very well off. And if you think globally of the characters that we see, whether in TV or in media, most of them are sports personalities. So even talent, you cannot discount it. So there is a value in all of us. I guess the trick is for all of us to find what makes you tick, what keeps you going, what keeps you competitive, and what can make you be able to sustain your life while doing it.
Mhm.
Whether it's in the classroom or outside the classroom, how you were raised, whether it's the talent that you just discovered you have, or something that just happened randomly to you. So I wouldn't really say, right, all I can say is everything can be useful if you know how to use it well.
Wow, I like that phrase. So really, what words of advice do you have for us? Myself, that we're all just Basotho youth. We're just trying to make a living, either employed or unemployed. What are some words of advice you can give us?
I will go back to those capabilities. Let's not just talk, let's act and commit, Let's continuously strive for being better, trying to learn. Let's train, let's be curious, let's try and find solutions for problems that we never even imagined before. Let's network, let's talk, let's ask, let's get busy, constructively busy, because you could be busy but doing nothing. Let's have a focus on the things that we want to achieve, and keep on searching. Eventually we will find that which it is that we are looking for.
Thank you for those very kind words.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and Dr. for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to click on that link in the comment section to let us know what you thought of today's webinar and which topics you'd like us to discuss in the future. I've also left that link on Facebook. Now, we all know that the Basotho have been most affected by job shortages, and this poses a real threat and a real challenge to the economy of Lesotho. And neither the public sector nor the small private sector, which is constrained by structural problems, offers much scope for job creation for youths. But through today's discussion with Ndate Pekani, I believe that there is hope in finding ways in which we can turn the situation around. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Thank you so much because we just discussed and had a conversation with Ndate Pekani on how Basotho can create their own businesses and what they need, what kind of challenges they are facing, and what the private sector and government have done. Thank you, Ndate Pekani. Ndate Pekani is a businessman as well as the former principal secretary of the Ministry of Small Business Development, Cooperatives and Marketing from 2017 to 2020. And he's also the founder and patron of I Am a Change Agent Social Enterprise. Thank you, Ndate.
Thank you very much, Ndate.
We'll be continuing this conversation with Ndate Pekani later this afternoon at Radio Lesotho at 5:10 p.m. at 10 after 5 p.m. with Mema Leshwa. So please tune in and feel free to watch this webinar on our YouTube channel. That's Rise International. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get even more notifications for content like this, and to also check what kind of projects that will be that we have been working on. Do like our page on Facebook for continued updates on our programs and our projects. That's Rise Int on Facebook, and also check out our website to see what kind of work we have been doing regarding helping fight the pandemic that is youth unemployment. Our website is riseint.org. Also, let us know your thoughts. As I said a bit earlier, let us know your thoughts and the topics that you'd like us to discuss in the future just by clicking on that link in the comment section. Watch out for our next webinar in the new year in 2022 on the 27th of January. We will be discussing inclusive urban design for people living with disabilities. Thank you for joining us and happy holidays. Bye-bye.